I had been in a relationship with my male god for 3 years, and just when we were about to get a happy ending, my cousin and I suddenly swapped bodies. I could only watch helplessly as my cousin and my body hugged, kissed my male god, and even, in the middle of the night, the male god who was supposed to be with my cousin suddenly knocked on the door and was about to kiss me as he put his arm around me. "Chloe?" he murmured softly, but I felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over me all of a sudden, and I pushed him away abruptly. Chloe was my cousin's name. When I was very young, I knew that I wasn't as likable as Chloe. My mother always pointed at my forehead in a way that showed her disappointment in me and said, "Avise, look at you. Appearance is determined by nature, but can't you be a bit smarter? Learn more from Chloe. Look at how clever she is." She was pretty, outgoing, lively, and good at pleasing the elders. During festivals, she even got more lucky money and red envelopes than I did, while I was plain looking and had a timid personality. Except for my fairly good grades, I was almost good for nothing. The bravest thing I had ever done in my life was to take the initiative to pursue my male god Zachary. I chased him for a whole semester. I wrote dozens of love letters to him, racked my brains to create chance encounters, brought him water when he played basketball, and accompanied him when he studied by himself. That night, when we came out of the library, I was just about to put a Bluetooth earphone to Zachary's ear when my hand was suddenly grabbed by him. "Avise, do you even know how to court someone?" He looked at me, and that good-looking face slowly moved closer. His breath was warm. My heart was beating so fast that my face and ears turned red at the same time. I don't." Zachary smiled and lowered his head to kiss me. "Then I'll teach you." After I started dating Zachary, my classmates were extremely shocked. Even some roommates who didn't get along well with me made sarcastic remarks. With her looks and her rustic dressing style, I don't know what tricks she used to seduce Zachary. I once asked Zachary why he was with me. At that time, we were on the subway. Because there were a lot of people, he held me in his arms and answered casually, "Because you're cute." Chloe told me that only when a man can't find any other good points in you will he praise you as cute. That summer vacation, Chloe came to City A to play with me, and Zachary accompanied me to the airport to pick her up. He dragged the suitcase and walked in front. Chloe whispered to me from behind, "Sis, your boyfriend is exactly my type." My heart sank. Since childhood, Chloe liked to snatch my things, and my family always asked me to give in to her. She was the biggest shadow in my life. If Chloe also liked Zachary, compared with her, I hardly had any chance of winning. In the following few days, I took Chloe around to play. Zachary originally wanted to accompany us, but I refused. I forced a smile with some reluctance. "No need. I'll accompany her. There are a lot of people during holidays. Don't you dislike noisy places?" Zachary gave me a deep look, then suddenly pulled me over and kissed me on the lips while holding me in his arms. In broad daylight, I subconsciously looked around and unnaturally broke free. Zachary said with a touch of resentment, "All right, I'll stay in the laboratory these days and wait for my wife to favor me." Zachary and I had been together for 3 years, and finally, during this winter vacation, I took him home. Chloe lived near my home. Under the pretext of young people can have fun together, my father booked a hot spring homestay in the suburbs for us. However, when we arrived at the place, we found that besides the three of us, there was also an unfamiliar boy there. When the boy saw us, he smiled and extended his hand. "I'm Carson, Chloe's neighbor." It could be seen from Carson's eyes that he liked Chloe. When we had dinner together in the evening, he also thoughtfully said to Chloe, "Chloe, you've been allergic recently, so you'd better not order seafood." Chloe accepted all his kindness calmly, but her eyes always fell on Zachary intentionally or unintentionally. Zachary ignored them, ordered a plate of butterfly shrimp, and then said lightly, "Avise likes shrimp. If you're allergic, just don't eat it yourself." That night, I drank some red wine and lay beside Zachary. Drunkenly, I asked him, "Zachary, why on earth do you like me?" He had also drunk some wine. He turned sideways, kissed me, and said casually, "Because you're my wife." I hesitated for a long time, but in the end, I swallowed that question. What if the person you met first was Chloe? Just when things were getting to the most critical moment, I pushed him away, pulled up the quilt, and covered myself. I'm sleepy. Zachary didn't continue and his voice sounded a bit cold. All right. However, I didn't expect that when I woke up, I had actually become Chloe. Early in the morning, someone knocked on the door. A person squeezed in through the half-open door, closed the door behind him, and then looked at me with a smile. Sis. Looking at that familiar yet strange face, I used all my strength to hold back my shocked scream. Chloe? She was in my body and walked to the bed calmly and sat down. Before I could say anything, she cut me off. I advise you not to think about telling Zachary about this. Such a strange thing, even if you tell him, he won't believe it. I immediately felt all my strength drained away. She was right. Zachary never believed in such supernatural and strange things. Even if I told him, he would just think I was crazy. Chloe looked at me and suddenly laughed. Besides, since childhood, haven't you always envied me? Just right. I'll lend you my body for a few days, and you lend Zachary to me for a couple of days too. When having breakfast, I could only watch helplessly as Chloe sat opposite me, leaned close to Zachary's ear, and coquettishly said, "Honey, I want to eat shrimp. Peel them for me. Honey, I want to eat your sandwich. Honey, I heard there are small couples hot spring pools here. Do we want to try them later?" I was so stimulated by this scene that my eyes became hot. I lowered my head in silence and randomly ate a few bites of the food in my bowl. However, a hand reached out beside me and silently handed me a tissue. I turned my head to look and found it was Carson. He pursed his lips and his expression didn't look happy. I belatedly remembered that he liked Chloe. Seeing me like this, he must have thought that Chloe was jealous of Zachary and was surely unhappy. Thinking of this, I sniffed and forced a smile as I took the tissue from his hand. Thank you. However, Zachary, who was sitting opposite me, suddenly stretched out his chopsticks, picked up a chicken wing, and put it in my bowl. I suddenly raised my head and looked at him. Zachary coughed softly. You can't eat seafood. I noticed you liked grilled chicken wings last night, so I ordered another portion. My heart suddenly sank. I didn't forget that I was now in Chloe's body. Chloe couldn't eat seafood recently. Carson just mentioned it casually last night, but he remembered it so clearly. He even remembered that she liked grilled chicken wings last night. I sniffed and stood up. I suddenly don't feel well. I'll go back to rest first. Carson was sitting on the outer seat and he didn't seem to have any intention of getting up. So I had to remind him, could you please get up first? Is that okay? I'll take you back. Carson stood up and followed me. Somehow, I couldn't help looking back again and happened to meet Zachary's gaze. In his eyes looking at me was undisguised worry. On the way back to the room, I remained silent all the time, not daring to say too much for fear of revealing the fact that I wasn't Chloe. Carson took the initiative to start a conversation. Where don't you feel well? Do you want to take some medicine? No need. Maybe it's because I didn't sleep well last night. I have a headache. I'll be fine after sleeping for a while. I said goodbye to Carson at the door of the room. Actually, he was also very good looking. He was half a head taller than the tall Chloe. His pitch black eyes looking at me even made me feel strangely familiar. Your sister. She seems a bit different today. My heart skipped a beat and I pretended to be calm. Really? I don't think so. Isn't she just acting coquettishly with her boyfriend like other girls in love? But in my heart, I was a bit shocked. Why was his sense so sharp? Carson looked at me thoughtfully and there was a hint of meaning in his eyes. Not all girls are like this. At least, I don't like this kind. When I got back to the room, I realized that I had been so distracted in the morning that I forgot to take my mobile phone with me when I went out. I didn't know Chloe's phone password, but fortunately, it could be unlocked with fingerprints. I opened her WeChat and found it full of unread messages that seemed endless. Quite a number of them were from boys asking her out for dinner or a date. This was an experience I had never had before. In fact, I didn't have many friends on my WeChat. Most of the messages I received every day were from Zachary and my best friend Xiao Chuan. And the countless messages that Chloe couldn't even reply to in time were probably the liveliness that only belonged to pretty girls. I only replied to the messages from her parents and then put away the phone and fell into a deep sleep on the bed. In a half-awake and half-asleep state, I seemed to see Zachary. He was wearing the blue and white basketball uniform that he had on when I first met him. He was so handsome and dazzling, walking towards me with a smile. He grabbed my wrist, pinned me against the wall in the corridor, and was about to lower his head to kiss me. I turned my head to avoid it and asked that question again, "Zachary, why do you like me?" He said gently, "Because you're very pretty, lively, and likable." The joy in my heart only flashed for a second. When I saw the beautiful and bright face in the mirror opposite me, I suddenly felt a chill all over my body. It was Chloe's face. I suddenly sat up in bed, gasping for breath. Only when I touched the sweaty back did I belatedly realize that it was just a dream. But the dream was so real that it dug out the deepest fear in my heart and tore it apart clearly for me to see. At this time, there was a sudden knock on the door. I originally thought it was Chloe again. However, when I opened the door, I found that it was Carson. "What's the matter?" I asked in a hoarse voice. The next second, a warm hand landed on my sweaty forehead. "You have a bit of a fever. It seems you've caught a cold." Carson picked up the paper bag in his hand and gestured with it. "I bought you some medicine and a cup of porridge. You didn't eat much in the morning. Drink the porridge first and then take the medicine." I looked up at his clear eyes that were like the sky and was a bit dazed for a moment. Carson was really nice to Chloe, being considerate in every possible way. But she just didn't like him and insisted on chasing after Zachary, who already had a girlfriend. Was this the so-called, the one you can't have is always tempting? I drank the porridge and took the medicine. When the headache gradually subsided, I felt sweaty all over and really uncomfortable. I asked Carson, "I'm planning to soak in the hot spring pool for a while. Do you want to come with me?" Carson readily agreed. However, as soon as we walked to the corridor outside the bathhouse, I saw two familiar figures at a glance. Chloe, who was in my body, was pinning Zachary against the wall, looked up and said something, then grabbed his collar and tiptoed to kiss him. I stared blankly at this scene, and a dull pain surged in my heart. The continuous discomfort made me almost unable to stand steadily. At this time, a hand stretched out from beside me and supported my swaying body. I turned my head and glanced. Carson was staring into my eyes and asked gently, "Do you like him?" I nodded with difficulty. "But he's your sister's boyfriend." The hand that was supporting me was warm, but his words were as cold as winter and seemed to have a deeper meaning. "Chloe, you're very pretty, but in this world, beauty isn't everything. Since Zachary has chosen Avis, it means that he really likes her. You can't get in between them." I shook my head weakly, bit my lip tightly, and held back the tears that were about to fall. "You don't understand." How could I put it into words? This situation that couldn't be explained by scientific principles had somehow led to the current situation. The person who was with Zachary was me, but also not me. And now that I was in Chloe's body, I clearly felt that in the way he looked at me, there was a budding restlessness. "Don't cry." Carson's voice suddenly rang out with a gentle sigh. The next second, I was pulled into a warm embrace. During the 3 years when I was in a relationship with Zachary, he was very nice to me, but I was always worried about gains and losses and couldn't completely settle down. He was so dazzling that I could spot him in the crowd at a glance back then. The same was true for others. Even when I was walking on the road holding his hand, girls would come up to ask for his WeChat from time to time. Once, Zachary and I were at an art gallery looking at paintings when suddenly a girl with charming eyes came up to chat us up. I subconsciously tightened my grip on his wrist. "He has a girlfriend." The girl smiled and looked me up and down, not bothering to hide her contempt in her tone. "You? Otherwise, could it be you?" Zachary said coldly. "If you want to film something, go find someone who's willing to cooperate with you. Don't come to me. I have a girlfriend." I turned my head and then saw someone beside us holding a mobile phone to record. Probably they were shooting some short video for a random passerby challenge. Later, I really came across that video. Many people in the comments section praised Zachary for being handsome and devoted, but the comment that got the most likes was, "Actually, I also think his girlfriend doesn't deserve him." For a long time after that, I didn't feel very secure. I didn't dare to tell Zachary about it, so I studied dressing and makeup with Xiaochuan, trying to make myself prettier. When we had a date, I wore a newly bought long dress with straps. As soon as I walked up to Zachary, I saw him slightly furrow his brows and take off his coat to put it on me. I was stunned for a moment. "Don't I look good?" "You look good." He hugged me, put his chin on my shoulder, and his lips were close to my ear. His voice was low. "That's why I don't want others to see you." I couldn't think about it anymore. I sniffed and managed to hold back the surging tears. I said to Carson in a low voice, "Let's go." Hearing the noise, the two people who were kissing passionately over there suddenly looked towards us. A hint of surprise flashed in Chloe's eyes. Zachary's gaze became a bit gloomy. He let go of Chloe, took a step towards us, but then stopped as if waking up from a dream. I gave him a fierce glare and didn't look at him anymore. Then I walked into the hot spring bathhouse side by side with Carson. The 3-day hot spring folk custom tour ended, and Chloe and I still hadn't switched back. On the morning when we left the homestay, I sent her a message. Soon, she came to my room. I got straight to the point. "Are you really willing to live in my body for the rest of your life? Give up your whole pool of fish just for Zachary?" Her eyes became sharp, and she looked at me mockingly. "Did you look at my phone? Didn't you look at mine?" I asked her back. "I did, but there was really nothing interesting. Your phone is just like your life." She slowly said 4 words, rather dull. "Being able to have such an excellent boyfriend as Zachary is probably the greatest achievement in your life, right?" Chloe looked at me and smiled. "So I'm going to enjoy it for you. By the way, even if we switch back, you should be close to breaking up. You should be able to feel the way he looks at Chloe now that you're in my body, right? Sister, you'll never be able to compete with me. As long as it's something I want, you'd better give it up early." When we left the homestay, Zachary walked side by side with Chloe. And Carson walked beside me, helping me carry Chloe's huge suitcase. We were just out for 3 days, but she had brought over 10 sets of clothes. I turned my head and thanked Carson softly. "Thank you. You're a nice person." "Really?" He chuckled. "Are you giving me the nice guy card already?" I didn't mean. I was at a loss for words for a moment. I wanted to explain, but he raised his hand to stop me. "No need to explain. I know what you mean." Near the end of the year, the city was terribly congested. When we went back, we took the subway. Just after getting out of the station, a young man suddenly caught up with me from behind and asked me for my contact information. I politely refused, but he still wouldn't give up and pestered me. In the end, he even became angry out of shame and tried to forcibly take my mobile phone from me. Carson suddenly reached out, grabbed the man's hand, and stared at him coldly. "She's already said no. Do you still want to rob her openly? What's it to you? Who are you?" Carson looked at me, and the inexplicable familiarity in his eyes made me freeze on the spot. "I'm her boyfriend," he announced coldly and solemnly. The young man left in dismay. I was still standing there, looking at Carson in front of me blankly. Something flashed through my mind, but it was too quick to catch. He reached out and touched my hair. "Scared silly? No. Being good-looking brings such troubles, right?" He slightly raised the corners of his lips and smiled at me. "Once, a girl on the road asked me for my WeChat. After I gave it to her, she kept looking for me all day long. Later, I deleted her, but she added me with different small accounts one after another. She harassed me so much that I almost called the police." Thinking about the messages I saw on Chloe's phone these 2 days, I deeply agreed. But soon, I remembered another thing. At the beginning of my relationship with Zachary, I was the one who pursued him unilaterally. So, if a man is persistently pursued by a girl, like she keeps finding topics to chat with him, creating chance encounters and so on, will he feel annoyed? Carson paused in his steps. In his eyes looking at me, a glimmer of light gradually lit up. If he likes her, he won't feel annoyed. During the spring festival when the whole family got together, I watched helplessly as Chloe, in my body, acted coquettishly with my parents and then sweetly asked Zachary to peel tangerines for her. I was so sad that I couldn't say a word. I had to lower my head and reply to the message sent by Carson. Are you watching the Spring Festival Gala? Yeah, it's so boring. He replied to me instantly, come to the balcony. I walked onto the balcony and saw Carson standing on the balcony next door at a glance. The balconies of our two houses were very close. We could even pass something to each other by just stretching out our hands. Carson stood in the night and smiled at me. The light from the living room behind him silently wrapped around him, and then he stretched out his hand and handed me something. It was a box of sparklers. Play with them when you're bored. He squinted his eyes and smiled at me. The lights of thousands of households were reflected in his eyes, shining brightly. After this spring festival is over, I'll tell you a secret. I held the box of sparklers and lowered my eyes, giving a soft reply. Actually, I didn't need him to tell me. I had already guessed what that so-called secret was. From the hot spring homestay to tonight, from his words and deeds when he was with me, it could be seen that he should like Chloe very much. But I wasn't Chloe. Even if he expressed his feelings, I couldn't reply on behalf of Chloe. I took the box of sparklers and went back with a gloomy mood. My mother spoke up immediately. It's been a year since we last saw each other. Chloe has become a lot more steady now. She doesn't even like to talk much. Chloe's mother, my aunt, immediately chimed in. Oh, this child just won't let me worry less. You see, she doesn't study as well as Avise, and her job isn't as good as Avise's either. Now Avise has even brought her boyfriend home, but she's just so quiet. She kept talking. I subconsciously looked up at Chloe opposite me and found that she didn't look happy. As if sensing my gaze, she gave me a fierce glare. I just felt it was so absurd that I turned my head away, only to see Zachary beside her, looking at me intently. Zachary, these days, he's always tried every means to strike up a conversation with me and had physical contact with me, either deliberately or unintentionally. The way he looked at me also made me feel particularly strange. Often, there would be a moment of trance, making me wonder how he could be so easily distracted by Chloe. Was it just because she had a much prettier face than mine? My heart felt a bit cold, and a continuous dull pain spread within me. In the following days, I went to visit relatives with my aunt and the others. I tried hard to play the role of Chloe, listening to my aunt's complaints and ramblings about her and her praises for Avise, but I just couldn't be happy. Probably because I had worn too little when I went out the day before, I caught a cold, so I didn't follow my aunt and the others to visit Chloe's distant aunt's family. That night, I was huddled on the sofa reading a book when suddenly there was a knock on the door. I opened the door and saw Zachary, reeking of alcohol. He still had that good-looking face, but the look in his eyes when he faced me was no longer as charming as before. Chloe. His gaze fell on my face, with a faint trace of obsession. Then he put his arm around me and was about to kiss me. I felt cold all over, pushed him away forcefully, took a step back, and said coldly, Zachary, look clearly. I'm Chloe, your girlfriend's younger cousin. He remained in the position where I had pushed him away. After a moment of silence, he looked at me and said, so what? I can break up with her. Don't you like me? This sentence was like a sharp blade, cutting deeply across my heart, and the wound was bleeding profusely. My mind went blank. I bit my lip hard to hold back my tears. I don't like you. I said with difficulty word by word. I will never like you again. When I first met Zachary, he was such a vibrant young man running on the basketball court in his basketball uniform. When he took the water from me, he would smile and say thank you. Later, we fell in love. Zachary liked to kiss me a lot and also liked to ruffle my hair. He would affectionately call me wife in a smiling voice. How could I have doubted his sincerity back then? Why did I get so obsessed and always be so insecure, constantly worrying about gains and losses out of inferiority? Now that I've seen how he transferred his affection to Chloe, I suddenly realized. The eyes can't lie. The previous Zachary truly liked me wholeheartedly. I don't know how long it had been before I gradually came to my senses and found that Zachary was already gone. I felt as if all my strength had been drained. I leaned against the door frame sideways, biting my lip and sobbing softly. At this time, there was a slight noise behind me. Before I could turn around, a warm force wrapped around my shoulders. "Don't cry." The familiar voice sounded beside my ear, carrying gentle comfort. "Avise, that wasn't me. It was Carson." I struggled out of that embrace, wiped my tears randomly, and looked at him quietly. After a while, I tentatively asked, "Zachary?" He nodded. There was pity, heartache, and a bit of regret in his beautiful eyes. He looked so familiar. The thought that had flashed by and been suppressed before was finally confirmed. Carson was Zachary. After I and Chloe swapped bodies, they also swapped. That's why I always felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity with Carson, always subconsciously got close to and relied on him. Always stared at his eyes in a daze and always felt that Zachary was so strange, and the look in his eyes when he looked at me was full of abnormal heat and obsession. I looked at Zachary and opened my mouth. "Then why didn't you tell me?" The faintly flickering light in the corridor shone over. He stared into my eyes under the light. At first, I wasn't sure. Later, when I was sure, I thought it was a good opportunity. "What opportunity?" "An opportunity to help you untie the knot in your heart." As he said that, he came over and grabbed my wrist. I shrank back a little but still didn't avoid it in the end. Zachary pulled me into the room and casually turned on the light in the living room. I felt flustered for a moment. Then Zachary's soothing voice sounded in my ear, "Don't worry. His parents have gone to the county town to visit relatives. There's no one at home." My heart calmed down a little. Zachary went to the kitchen and cooked a cup of hot red wine for me and brought it over. I sipped it slowly and just felt my cold body gradually warming up. "Wearing so little and still standing at the door crying." He sighed, "Even if it's someone else's body, if you don't take good care of it, you'll still be the one who suffers." I held the cup and just felt that the fullness of grievance and sadness in my heart gradually dissipated, leaving only a bit of sourness and the tiredness after my spirit suddenly relaxed. Then I asked about the topic just now, "What not?" "Avise, we've been together for 3 years. No matter how hard I tried to express my feelings, it seemed that you never felt secure. You always thought that I would be lured away by someone else with just a few words." As he said that, he reached out and gently held my fingertips. At first, I was a bit sad, always feeling that my sincerity couldn't be trusted. "I didn't even look at your cousin more than once, but you thought I would run away with her. But later, I thought that I had to find a way to solve this problem, or else we wouldn't go far together. Just at this time, this thing happened. At first, I wasn't sure if you two had also swapped. After confirming it, I thought it was the best opportunity to make you realize that you actually have many good qualities that make people like you. And those involved can't see clearly. Maybe by having others tell you about my sincerity for you, you can believe it more." Suddenly, I was stunned. For a moment, when I recalled the words Carson had said before, they suddenly seemed to have a deeper meaning. Since Zachary has chosen Avise, it proves that he really likes her. You can't get involved. Even good looks can bring such troubles. If you like someone, you won't feel bothered. When I came back to my senses from my memories, I had already thrown myself into Zachary's arms, crying bitterly. "But I really don't know why you agreed to be with me back then." I sobbed and said, "So many girls liked you. There were those who were prettier than me and had better personalities than me. Why did you like me of all people?" "Because when I like someone, she becomes very special in my eyes." Zachary held me, just like countless times before, resting his chin on my shoulder socket and his lips beside my ear. "I noticed that you came to the basketball court to bring me water and would take the empty bottle away after I drank it. When you went to the library to study by yourself, you only peeked at me a few times at the beginning, and then you started to concentrate on doing the exercises and didn't even notice that I had been looking at you all the time. Also, when we finally had an accidental encounter, you blushed even when I accidentally touched your hand. So, actually, I liked you first, wife. My heart was filled with boundless sweetness, as if my heart that had been falling into an abyss was suddenly held up. The hot red wine I drank churned in my stomach. The alcohol blended into my blood, gradually making my head feel dizzy. I shook my head and grabbed Zachary's hand and asked, "But how can we swap back?" "I don't know yet for now." He picked me up gently, placed me on the bed, and covered me with a quilt. "Go to sleep first. We'll talk about it when you wake up." Unexpectedly, without doing anything, we just swapped back after waking up from sleep. "What time is it?" "Still sleeping." The next morning, I was woken up by my mother's familiar voice, "Avise, look at you." I stared at her blankly and tentatively called out, "Auntie?" My mother was also stunned for a second and then she became even more irritable. "Avise, I just scolded you a couple of sentences last night. Are you so angry that you don't even want to recognize me as your mother? Look at Zachary. He's already up and helping with cooking, and you're still sleeping in." I opened my mouth but before I could say anything, Zachary's familiar voice came from behind her, "It's okay, Auntie. Avise wasn't feeling well last night. Let her rest a bit more." I looked over my mother and at Zachary behind her. He was wearing my father's bare apron. The childish pattern didn't affect his elegant and noble temperament at all. The sunlight reflected by the winter snow shone in through the glass window and a beam of it happened to fall on his handsome face. The moment our eyes met, I knew that he had also swapped back. My mother suddenly panicked. "I just scolded you a little, and you're already crying." All right. You can continue sleeping. Zachary, don't be busy either. Stay with Avise for a while." I raised my hand to wipe my face and only then realized that I was already in tears. Zachary took off the apron, walked over, casually closed the door, and let me bury my face in his shoulder, letting my tears soak into it. Just like countless times before, he raised his hand and ruffled the top of my hair. "Crybaby." I sniffed, bit his shoulder, but didn't dare to use too much force and in the end, it seemed more like flirting. Zachary lifted my chin and looked at me. "It's all your fault. You didn't tell me even after you were sure." It made me feel so disgusted with myself every time I felt that the previous Carson was inexplicably familiar and I had a good impression of him, as if I were a fickle woman who changed her affections easily. "Whoa, wife, it's all my fault." Zachary just listened to me sobbing and crying and then gently apologized to me, "I'm sorry. I liked him so much that I couldn't get angry at all. Moreover, because we swapped bodies, we haven't kissed for a long time." Before he finished speaking, I was pushed by Zachary against the head of the bed. Then he held my wrists and leaned over to kiss me. He still had that faint citrus fragrance lingering around him as always. Finally, with teary eyes and panting, I pushed him away a little and asked softly, "But why did we suddenly swap back?" Zachary rubbed my cheek. "Probably just like that night, we both drank red wine, and the knot in your heart was finally untied." "Is that so?" "It's also possible that God found that I missed my wife so much that he quickly sent us back." After saying this, Zachary kissed me again. In a daze, I seemed to hear a little noise from the bedroom door. During lunch, my mother gave my father a meaningful look. My father coughed politely twice and then asked Zachary in a friendly manner, "Zachary, you see that you're all graduating this year, and you and Avise have been together for quite a long time." Zachary was really nice. He immediately picked up on what was being hinted at. "Yes, uncle. I'm planning to take Avise to meet my parents when we go back. Then we'll discuss the wedding date and things related to the wedding." My father was very satisfied. But my mother started her habitual nagging again. "Avise, when you meet Zachary's parents, you should be a bit smarter. Don't be like you are at home. It would be best if you could learn from." Before she could finish her sentence, my father suddenly poked her with his chopsticks, and my mother quickly shut up. However, I had already guessed what she was going to say next. I took a deep breath and asked slowly, "Mom, do you really like Chloe that much?" My mother was stunned. Zachary reached out his hand from under the table, gently held my hand, and comforted me silently. I tried hard to suppress the sourness in my eyes and nose. If you were given a chance to choose again, would you rather have her as your daughter? How could that be? You're my only daughter. My mother refuted without hesitation. Then, as if she'd just realized something, she said, "You've always thought that we liked Chloe more, so you tried to imitate her in everything these past few days, right? You noticed? You're my daughter. How could I not tell if you've changed or not?" My mother muttered, "I was wondering why you suddenly talked and acted just like Chloe, all coquettish. I wasn't used to it. Avis, Mom just has the habit of nagging you a bit. Actually, you're very nice. You've always been Mom's pride. Mom will try not to mention Chloe in the future." She paused for a moment and then picked up a piece of spare ribs and put it in my bowl. "No matter how many times I'm given the chance to choose again, I'll definitely still choose you as my daughter." In spring, I went back with Zachary to meet his parents. Only after meeting them did I understand why Zachary didn't care at all about a girl's appearance. Because his father was still a dazzlingly handsome man even in middle age, and although his mother only had delicate features, her eyes and brows were full of the glow of happiness. As soon as I entered the door, she enthusiastically took the things in my hands. "Oh, what a lovely girl. How thoughtful. You bought all the things I like to eat." After sitting down on the sofa, she held my hand and said with a smile, "If Zachary dares to bully you, just tell me, and I'll stand up for you." My originally nervous and uneasy heart quickly calmed down in such a warm atmosphere. When it was almost noon, Zachary's parents went to the kitchen to cook and asked him to take me to his room to play for a while. After going in, I found that the style of Zachary's room was just like him, gentle and aloof. I immediately noticed the row of plastic figurines on the bookshelf and exclaimed in surprise, "Aren't these the prizes drawn at the school art festival before? Why are you still keeping them?" Zachary smiled and hugged me. "I'll keep everything you gave me." During the lunch break, I wanted to find a big t-shirt from his wardrobe to use as a temporary nightgown. But instead, I found a set of black and white maid costumes made of see-through fabric. I picked up that set of clothes, turned around, and glared at him. "Explain." Zachary coughed softly twice, and the tips of his ears turned slightly red. "Avis? Don't. You've even prepared this. So, were you with me just for this?" "No." Zachary grabbed my wrist, pulled me over, and made me sit on his lap. Then he leaned close to my ear and whispered, "This is for me. When you want to favor me someday, I'll wear it for you. Please. Is that okay?" He was really good at this. My face and ears blushed hotly together. Later, Chloe came to apologize to me. By that time, she was already with Carson. It was said that Carson had noticed that she liked Zachary before, so he wanted to use Zachary's body to flirt with her. She said a lot of things, saying that actually she had envied me since childhood. She envied me for having good grades and that my parents had a good relationship and didn't quarrel every day like her parents did. And because she didn't do well in studies, she could only try her best to please the elders by observing their expressions. With teary eyes, Chloe asked me, "Sister, will you forgive me?" I listened silently until she finished, and then told her, "But that's not a reason for you to hurt me." I shook my head, saw her out the door, and then blocked her on WeChat. After doing all this, I couldn't help feeling a bit worried and asked Zachary, "Do you think I'm really bad for doing this? That I'm too vengeful?" He smiled, shook his head, lowered his head to kiss me. His voice was a bit hoarse, but the light in his eyes was brighter than the stars. "Whatever my wife does is right." The end.